Hi, I am Reza Bruner, a staff writer at Time, and I'm joined today by Gonzalo Pertile, the Director of Corporate Social Responsibility at Madewell. Thank you so much for being here, Gonzalo, for the Shins B show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
So let's start by just talking a little bit about your role with Madewell and how you ended up becoming involved in corporate social responsibility and sustainability efforts there.
So I joined Madewell almost 3 years ago, and that's when the company decided to start actually the journey on sustainability. So I joined the company and we created the corporate social responsibility department. And what I do is that I focus on our supply chain efforts, so very heavily focused on product, and then really looking at to how we can make our product more sustainable in every sense of the word. So it's covering both environmental impact and also social impact. So we're looking a lot at the raw materials that we're using, how we're making the products, who is making the products, and what we can do to provide them better opportunities, how we're thinking about the long term and really looking at circularity and the end of life of products. So it's a very diverse role. But we're really excited because we are in a journey that there's no way back, and it's really exciting to see the results that we have so far. So very, very happy that I'm at the company.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about what those results you've seen so far are, and what you've been able to accomplish lately, and what is most exciting to you right now about your work.
Absolutely. So on the social front, we partner very closely with Fairtrade USA, which is a nonprofit organization based in Oakland, California. And what we do is that we work with our current supply chain, the factories where we cut and sew our products, and we certify them under fair trade practices. So each factory goes through a very long process. It's somewhere between 8 to 12 months for a factory to get certified under fair trade. And this is a signature initiative that we have at Madewell. It's really exciting for us to partner with Fairtrade USA because it's an organization that's very well known in the US. It started in the agricultural world, coffee, cocoa, banana, etc. But then about 6-7 years ago, they created a standard that's applicable to the home goods and fashion industry as well. So we are going through a process where we are improving the practices that the factories where we produce that have, and really making sure that we are able to give back to the men and women who are cutting and sewing our product. So for every product that we make at a fair trade certified factory, we pay a premium, which is a percentage of the cost of the goods. And that money goes directly back into a bank account that's managed by the workers themselves. So they decide how they want to invest the money. So in this project, we started with one factory in Vietnam, a denim factory called Cytex. That was our pilot project. And we're very, very happy that right now we have many more factories on board, not only in the denim world, but also wovens, knits, sweaters. And we are now at 62% of our products that are fair trade certified for our denim business. So it's really exciting to see the growth of a program that started very, very little with only one factory. And right now we are really happy with having such a large percentage of our denim business certified as fair trade.
That's really exciting, and that's great to hear. And I can imagine that it's something that you're hoping to repeat in other sides of the business as well, beyond denim. So, how do you see these relationships with suppliers and manufacturers? And as you're trying to replicate that success beyond, how do you see it changing over the next few years? And what are you looking for when you're, building these relationships going forward?
I think that it's something that for us, it's a priority in the sense that when we certify a factory under fair trade practices, we are engaging in a very deep connection with the factory in every single sense. Of course, we are helping them achieve better social compliance practices, but then we're also connecting with the workers themselves. Fair trade is a model that really connects the brand with the supplier. And I think that those connections and getting to know deeply your vendors nowadays, it's something that's crucial because that's how you know that you're having impact, first of all, but also how you know that you're helping them also improve and join the sustainability wagon. So I think it's very important to make efforts and invest in those long-term relationships and really get to know who you're working with. Vendors are usually engaging with companies and with brands in like every single day, and it's a connection that happens sometimes very far away, and you don't even know the person who's on the other side of the email. But through fair trade, it's a way for us to really get to know the people that we're working with. So we are really excited about that part of the work. And I think it's important for in every single aspect, not only on the social part, but also on the environmental aspect as well, to really know who you're working with and making sure that you share the same vision for the future. Sustainability is something that's not static. It's something that continues to evolve. And by building on those relationships, you are really able to know where you can improve, what you can do better, what your vendor needs to achieve the goals that you have, because they actually, even though they are not visible on the goals that brands have, they are a huge part of impact and results that brands actually have. So I think it's important to invest in those relationships and to bring them on board of the sustainability wagon to really make sure that you are aligning efforts and really achieving larger impact.
Yeah, yeah. It seems to me like it's so important for brands like Madewell, who have global reach and a certain position of power and recognition for consumers, to really be pioneers in this space and be sort of leading the way for the vendors to know that it's a path that they can go down. What do you think is the role of brands like Madewell in kind of changing the game in this way? And how are you trying to be a leader?
I think it's a responsibility that not only Madewell, but brands overall have. The business world has completely changed. People are very conscious about social and environmental impact. And I think it's important for brands to recognize the responsibility that they have. And that's actually the approach that we took at Madewell. We are doing this because we are convinced that the planet and the people that live in it really depend on us doing good for the world and for everybody in general. So I think it's important to have that vision and to have that honest and like true approach towards sustainability. We know that we're not perfect. We are trying to make the best efforts, and we have very long-term goals that will really drive the efforts and the change that we want to see in the industry. And we want to be leaders in it. So I think it's also important for us to be known for investing in sustainability and really making sure that we're also able to maybe engage and maybe also help other brands in the way as well. If we're able to really make sure that other brands get inspired by the work that we're doing, in the end, it results in better conditions for workers in supply chains, better conditions for the planet. So I think it's important also to be that inspiration in the industry as well. And we're always open trying to help other brands as well. We received a lot of help in our own journey as well. So we're always grateful for that. And we try to give back also and really help other brands as well.
Yeah. So as I was doing some research before having this conversation, I discovered that you have co-founded a small brand yourself of handmade artisanal goods sourced from Latin America. And I was really curious, your experience on that side of the business, how has that impacted how you think about sustainability in a larger context, like at Madewell, and how you think about, the connection between smaller brands and larger corporations?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the co-founder of Meso Goods, which is a social impact design-focused business based in Guatemala. And we work with local artisans, helping them get connected with larger brands in the US. So we manufacture everything with artisans, with very traditional hand weaving techniques, imprinting a lot of contemporary design and connecting those artisans to international markets. And what I think it's really beneficial having that experience is that I know how the world looks like from the other side, from the vendor or the supplier side. So I think that's really important to really understand the challenges that small brands or small vendors are facing nowadays. And now being at Madewell, I can use that and leverage that opportunity of really knowing what are the things that vendors need or the challenges that they are facing to really make sure that we can use all the power that a large brand that Madewell has to do good in the world. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity of really getting to know the other side, because sometimes it's not very usual that somebody working in a brand was previously a supplier or a vendor for like a small company based abroad. So I think it's super important to have that vision as well.
Yeah, absolutely. What part of sustainability and your work in at Madewell on the sustainability side has been the most challenging for you and for the company? Is it working with vendors, or is it on the consumption side, or where have the stumbling blocks been for you, and how have you been moving through those?
I think everything is a learning process. Once a brand decides to go into a sustainability initiative or create a department focused on sustainability, everything is a learning because sustainability doesn't mean the same to every single brand. And then once you really find the approach that you want to take and you set up the long-term strategy, that's where the actual challenges really start to know really what sustainability means for a brand. So in our case, I would say that we learn in every single aspect from the marketing standpoint, where we are really actually telling the story of the things that we do and learning where customers want to read about it. Sometimes it's on social media, sometimes it's by email. It's really also complex to translate a sustainability technical issue and make it simple and easy to understand for customers. So that was another learning for us. We really were trying and seeing what works and what doesn't, to make sure that we're able to provide synthesized and really straightforward, straight to the point, sometimes that are really very complex issues that customers are not very familiar with, but they are interested, and you have to find a way to tell that story or to explain a environmental issue in a very simple way. So I think that's something that we continue to learn, and we continue to find the ways where our customer wants to meet us on that front and really learn more. We're always also trying to educate and make sure that we're able to share the things that we have learned. So sometimes that's also something that we need to find the best way for that and the best avenue for that. And then the other thing is that also supply chains are sometimes very far away. So you have to make sure that you are very well connected with your vendors and you have people on the ground. We are really also super helpful for our office that we have in Hong Kong that really supports all of the efforts that we have. And they are part of the team and they are really engaged and really make those connections much easier.
Yeah. So I know you've been working in corporate social responsibility and these kinds of initiatives for a while, and have also studied it. What do you think has shifted in the retail world, especially in recent years, around the perception of these kinds of initiatives? Is it something that's more prioritized now? Are you excited about, how things are moving forward, or are you still sort of fighting this battle?
I think the space has completely changed. It became a priority for most of the brands, and if it's not a priority nowadays, I think they are not on the right path. I think that sustainability is a topic that will continue to evolve and grow in the corporate world, and it's something that I see now that brands have understood that it's something that they need to own and be responsible for. So I see that the field is going to continue growing. And what I also feel is that if a brand doesn't have a focus on sustainability or a strategy around it, in the long term, they will become obsolete because the consumer is asking for it. It's something that continues to be of interest for consumers. We know that our customer is very interested in these topics, and it's not only for us. I think it's for the whole industry overall. So I think it's important for brands, if they want to be relevant and really to make a positive change, they need to jump on this wagon. And it's something that it may be tough to really make a decision to go for it at the beginning, but I think it's something that once you start, there's no way back, and you are really more passionate about it. You incorporate it into more areas of the business. So it's something that continues to be part of the identity of a brand. So in our case, we know that's the way that we are going. We are well ahead in our path. Last year, we launched our first CSR report. It was a huge effort, and it's a great resource for other brands as well to see the things that we're doing, how we're doing it, the results that we have achieved. So it's something that we know will continue to be part of Madewell.
So say you're starting a brand new venture in fashion, especially. What would your advice be to entrepreneurs who want to build in sustainability and a sustainable focus into the DNA of their brands? I mean, where do you even start?
I think one of the things that if you're just creating a company and you're starting from the get-go, get it part of your business from the start. It's easier if you are smaller and if you are starting focused on it, rather than having a large company that's transitioning into sustainable practices. And that's the latter is what we've been doing. So it's also super important to do it that other way. But if you're a small brand and you're just starting, don't wait for like later on. Don't really say, I'm going to do it once I have more clients, or I'm going to do it once I'm more established. No, it's more important and actually easier to do it from the get-go. So I would encourage anybody to really study, read a lot, contact people. I think it's also important to reach out to other brands that you admire or that you recognize as leaders in the space. And I think that's also how you actually continue to learn and you establish those links in the industry. The CSR space in the fashion industry is actually very, very collaborative. And it's something that you wouldn't imagine, knowing that maybe at the design level brands compete, but then in the CSR space, everybody's willing to help each other because they know that we're talking about issues that are much larger than any single brand alone. So I think that there's an opportunity to engage with other brands, learn, and reach out and really establish those connections that will help you throughout the way.
Who have you looked to as examples of best practices or your favorite leaders in the space? What resources have you been able to make use of?
So from the beginning, when we were actually in the stages of determining the strategy for Madewell, we connected with Patagonia, and they were incredibly helpful. They have an amazing team. They are also part of the Fairtrade USA family. So we share a lot of the initiatives that we have in that space, and we learned a lot from them. They were always super helpful and open to sharing their practices, to sharing the knowledge that they have, from years and years from doing these things. So for us, it was something that we are eternally grateful, and we know that we really can count on them. We also connected very closely with Prana. They have an amazing team that's also part of the Fairtrade family. And we're also collaborating with other brands. We are, for the first time ever, co-nominating a factory to become Fairtrade certified in Cambodia with Target. And we're working together. It's something that you wouldn't imagine Target being somehow maybe a complete different brand than Madewell is. But the thing is that they also have the same approach towards sustainability. They are Fairtrade USA partners. And as I said before, we are all working towards a larger good.
And where do you think the greatest strides have been made in some of these collaborative efforts? Is it in, figuring out fair trade factories that you can work with together, or are there other areas that you think are great case studies or examples of successes?
Well, I think that Fairtrade it's a very, I would say, a distinctive initiative that we have, and the Fairtrade business, the Fairtrade certified factories in the world are actually growing a lot because there are many brands that are joining the Fairtrade family. So that's great. What I also see is that through organizations like the Textile Exchange, which is also a nonprofit organization focused on material change, which is the one that actually develops different type of standards that are focused on more sustainable raw materials, like the responsible wool standard, the responsible down standard, GRS, the global recycle standard. So it's an organization that really sets the bar of what sustainability from a raw material perspective means. And I think that the industry overall has really backed up that organization and the standards that they have to transition into more sustainable raw materials. And I think that's an effort that's, yes, pushed by Textile Exchange, which is an amazing organization, but I think that also so many brands have joined their efforts that the impact that we're having as an industry overall through the guidance and the recommendations that Textile Exchange has been great. And now the organization has a very strong approach towards the carbon footprint and reducing carbon emissions. So I think that's the next phase, and really with all the innovations that are happening in the regenerative agriculture world, which most of the brands, if they are working in fashion, they are using cotton. So you have to think about also agriculture as well. So I think that with the focus that Textile Exchange has now with the Climate Plus, Climate Positive strategy towards carbon footprint, I think it's going to be another milestone for the fashion industry.
That's great to hear. So as a consumer like me, who's maybe less connected to the inner workings and sort of understanding of the fashion supply chain at large, what should we be looking for as purchasers when we want to support brands that are doing this kind of work? How can we be sure that, we are putting our money where our values may be and being a part of this shift?
I think it's important for people to really understand what sustainability means, and sometimes it can be challenging and difficult really to navigate that space. So I would encourage customers and people to really look for certifications. That's something that it's very straightforward. It's most of the times certified by third parties. So if a brand is saying this is a recycled quality, ask them how do they know? Do they have a certification that can back that up? If you're looking for social practices, look for the fair trade label. Those are all things that are third party verified that can really make sure that if a brand is talking about it and they have a certification to back it up, be certain and be sure that you can trust that brand because there was somebody that did a third party audit and made sure that the brand was meeting all the requirements. So I think it's important to look for those type of standards and certifications that can really make life of consumers so much easier. Really, if you see a label, a standard, a logo, you can really understand without really reading much, and you know that you can trust that brand. So I would definitely encourage customers to do that. And then read, really, if you're interested in the topic, you can read it. There are a lot of resources online. And you can get educated about how you can have a lower impact. What are the small things that you can do? When I started working in this field, one of the things that I always recommend is that the home laundering process is the largest environmental impact that a piece of clothing has. So if you're able to wash with cold water, wash less, line dry instead of using a dryer, all those things, they may seem small, but they have a large impact if you add up the whole world and all the people that are doing those activities. So I think it's important to also understand that maybe the smallest thing also has a large impact. So I think it's also important to recognize that we are starting by ourselves.
Totally. And then when you're looking at, other brands or other members of the corporate social responsibility and sustainability community, what do you wish more people were doing? What do you want to see going forward? What are your priorities, and what would you like your community to really be on board about over the next, say, year, especially?
Well, I think it's important, as I said at the beginning, that the corporate world understands that they have a responsibility, that they are also citizens, corporate citizens, and that it's really something that they need to own and make sure that they are making all the efforts that they can to lower the impact on the environment, moving towards a carbon neutral economy. I think that there's so much that needs to happen also on the circularity world. We're just starting there. I think circularity is going to be the next big thing also. So I would like to see more of that. There are a lot of innovations in the world, and there's a lot of lab innovations that are happening, at a smaller scale. But once those come to larger scale, they will disrupt the industry. So I think that also the growth in circularity and the growth in that space is going to be crucial for the industry as well. And I think it's important for brands to be up to date. Those are things that you need to be on the lookout and really start connecting with those innovations from the start, because you need to know what that means from a perspective of environmental or social impact, and then make sure that you are ready to implement them once they are available at large scale. So I think it's really important, that connection.
Yeah. So say fast forward a year in the future, say we're having this conversation again, what would you like to be able to tell me about what you think you've accomplished at Madewell in that year? Send there.
Well, lots of exciting things. It's incredible, all the projects that we have on the works, and there are many things. As I said, a focus on circularity for us is crucial. So you will be seeing a lot of that coming for Madewell. We will continue our approach with fair trade and our partnership with fair trade. We are nominating more factories this year to become fair trade certified. So it's always exciting for us when we are launching a new product and a new category. We are also innovating in new countries that fair trade is starting to work as well. So it's really something that I wouldn't be able to say one thing, because we have so many things going on, and sustainability is such a big priority for Madewell, that I think it's a variety of things that we are implementing. We're also really excited about regenerative agriculture and really making strides on that world as well. I think it's really important to focus on raw materials, which also are for brands are where they have the largest environmental impact. So we are also continuing the transition that we have towards sustainable raw materials. We have goals around 5 key fibers that represent more than 90% of the volumes of fibers that we procure. So we know that by focusing only on those 5 key fibers, we're having the largest impact. So I know that we are going to continue transitioning into more of those sustainable raw materials. And it's exciting because whenever we are launching products, we had last year an amazing collaboration with a wool supplier called Nativa, that we did traceable wool, that we traced our wool all the way down to the farm level through a blockchain technology. So I think that things like that are things that excite us, and really we want to share with our consumers more of those stories.
Wow, that sounds very cool. Thank you so much, Gonzalo, for sharing this wealth of knowledge and experience. Is there anything else you would like to add?
Oh, that we are open, and if people want to reach to us, we are, as I said before, really eager also to help other brands and to share all the knowledge that we have achieved and accomplished so far, and making sure that this becomes more like an open space, and really more brands are on board of this wagon, because I think it's something that in the end it will result in a larger impact.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Gonzalo, again for joining the Shinzen Bee Show.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me, Rachel.
Sure.